Hey, welcome everybody. Hi.
Hi. Okay, everybody's logging in. Look at all those bright, shiny faces.
Welcome,
Hooray.
everybody.
Hi, toddler community. Look at all these Montessorians. Amazing. Amazing. Hooray.
Here I am.
Hi. Hi. We set it up so that when people come in, you should be on mute when you come in. And if not, then we'll do our best to try to help get you muted, if not, so that everybody can hear. Great. We'll keep giving people a few seconds to get logged in. All right.
We're at 155 so far.
That is so
Amazing.
exciting.
What we want to do is give a couple minutes for everybody to get acclimated and all of that, because it does take, there's a little bit of a delay when you have this many people logging on at the same time. So we want to give everybody really just a few minutes to get logged on.
Thanks, Kathy. We can tell everybody who you are and what meeting you're in. You're in the infant and toddler in the time of coronavirus and the pandemic here, and so we're all in this together. We're all sharing something that's historic, and yeah, it's historic. It'll be in the history books, and all of us will have been there. So I think of the people I see on that said, I was a child, they're 100 and something now. I was a child then, and I remember it. And, you know, that'll be something that maybe will be us someday, that we'll remember when. And I don't know if anybody knows Clarissa Piccola Estes, but she talks about the wise woman and becoming an elder. And I love her work, and I listen to her all the time. And so, you know, someday we'll be the elders, and someday there will be young people wondering if they can make it through something. And someday we'll say, you'll make it through, honey. You'll be just fine. We made it through. And so will you. So someday we'll be those wise elders. Maybe some of you are already. I'm not claiming it quite for myself yet. I have a few more years to go, but but that's where we are now. I'm Terry Sherrill. I'm going to help moderate this along with my mentor and the director of our program. I'll introduce Kathy Leach, who's also the IMC CEO director. I don't remember your title, and Montessori Foundation. We're just very lucky to have her joining us also. So Kathy, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
I just want to say welcome. I'm very happy to see so many people interested in infant toddler, very, very much. And we're looking forward to, having a nice conversation tonight. Terry has prepared some things to share, but this is also about community and remembering you're not alone. We're all in this together, and we'll figure it out together as best as we can. So hopefully we can help answer your questions and share lots of ideas tonight.
We also have a lot of people here who are panelists. It's some instructional guides from the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, some past alumni, some just different people who are at different stages of this pandemic. That some have been never closed and have been in school all along. Some have been doing online. Some have just started back up. So we're hoping to get lots of different voices and perspectives to add to the conversation. So I think that I left all of the hand signals up. If people are here that are on the panel or an IG or something, if you want to raise your hand for a few seconds. I think that everybody can see that, or you could use your real hands or your, so we're glad for that. And they will be contributing throughout the evening. We're also going to have, some questions. I'll bring it to your attention that you can use the chat function at the very bottom on the little toolbar there. If you have pressing questions, a few people sent in questions already, so I hope we fold those in, have folded those in to our conversation. And hi to everybody. Some people are saying where they're from, so hello to people from Juarez and to different people from all over the country, maybe all over the world, coming together. And we've said before, if there are silver linings, it's that we might have been working alone in our classrooms or alone in our schools, and now we are connected to the world and connected to the Montessori community everywhere. And I hope that lasts. I hope we stay in touch and that we share information, that we continue to support each other way into the future. There are plenty of children who need Montessori in their lives. And so we're not competing with each other. There's like a bazillion children and we're a teeny tiny slice of the pie. So the more we share, the more a rising tide will lift all boats. We share that way. So without further ado, I guess we still have a few people coming in to the waiting rooms, but a lot of people have gotten in.
We're at 227.
Wow,
We have a
great.
lot of friends here tonight.
Yay, how wonderful. How absolutely wondrul. Well,
Carrie, we have questions. Can I just ask real quick, because this is going to keep coming up. Do you have the 321 forms for people to fill out in order to get their certificate of professional development from this? And will we post it in the chat box?
We can post that in the chat box. Mercedes, do you happen to have a copy of that?
Yeah, we'll wait till everybody gets logged in, because if it goes in before they get logged in, we can put it in more towards the end.
Right.
Mercedes, if you want to upload that. And I just want to explain to everyone, if you download that form and complete that, send it to the email address that's on the form, and then you'll in return get a certificate of professional development. So that will be, Mercedes will put that in a little bit.
Right.
Thanks,
so if you
Tara.
have
Just want to
that
make sure people didn't have anxiety about that.
Right. We'll have a few other things. I also have something about the Montessori non-negotiables, some of our principles and practices to help us with that. So, we will do that as well. So if we're all ready, let me see if I can. I'm going to share a screen. We're going to do some PowerPoint things. I hope that that's an okay way to do things, and we'll back away from it some too. But I like graphics and visuals, so maybe we can share some things together that way. All right, so I will do present and share a screen, and let's see what we can come up with here. All right, share.
Tanya, you robbed me. Please, quiet.
Okay. Whoops, I can't see who's it just went blank for a few seconds. I can't see who might have their mics on, so I'll need help from.
Yeah, we're monitoring that. We'll mute as we can.
Great. So, of course, the first thing is welcome, and we've been welcoming you for a little while. We are very glad that you are here and glad that we can come together to share what we know and say we don't know everything. This is brand new, and so we're all learning. And it's great to be able to learn together. I think I might have said this at another meeting, but Brene Brown, if you know her, she and her husband got into a fight, and she said, "You have to do this, it's a pandemic." And he said, "How many pandemics have you been in? How can you be an expert yet?" So nobody is one yet. So we'll share what we know, and we'll appreciate other people also sharing. So let's see. So I'm writing What is Montessori All About Anyway, because, and this particular picture, because it shows Dr. Montessori when she was interned in India as a enemy combatant during World War II. After she had stood up to Mussolini and was exiled from her country, so she made it through World War I, the pandemic of the Spanish flu, World War II, and being kept as an enemy combatant in India. And here she is. And after that time, she wrote The Absorbent Mind. I think she worked on some of the elementary curriculum. So she was even more prolific and understood the world even better from having been in these different countries and different cultures. So where I'm hoping that she inspires me, her example inspires me all of the time. I was at a webinar earlier in the day, and Patty, how do I say her last name, Kathy?
Pay month by month. Yeah, I never got that email.
Oops, you're on mute. That's okay.
That was Patty Sobelman, sorry.
She said one thing that she recognized was that Montessori is a flexible pedagogy. It's built into our DNA because she had so many things happen in her life. And when we ask the question, what is this Montessori about anyway? The answer is that it is, it's preparation for life. That is what Montessori is about. And it's not preparation for life just when everything's easy. We want to be able to prepare children for everything. So what if this is a wonderful opportunity to help some of the most resilient children ever, and to develop superpowers. So the education of even a small child does not aim at preparing him for school, but for life. And Montessori believed that the task of the child was to construct an adult. Carried unseen within each child is the person that child could become. And the purpose of Montessori education is to assist the child in becoming that adult. Therefore, Montessori education is preparation for life. It recognizes that education must aid life and support this development of the child. So the next slide is a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And so here we have this opportunity. If the sailor had only sailed around when it's like this, they will not be prepared for the storm. So here we have an opportunity to help children. So what if we embrace this as an opportunity to help our children? Because Lord knows they are going to grow up and have quite a lot of challenges to face. They've got climate, they've got, they've got so many things to face. And what we want is for them to arise from this stronger, faster, better, and not traumatized. So it's really, really, really important that we help that make this experience for them something that doesn't include maybe our own stresses. So, Kathy, does anybody have anything to say about this so far?
No, Terry, we have lots of thanks and other, things. The 321 Mercedes posted there.
Oh,
but
great.
We'll keep watching, and I know Elaine's watching too, so we'll let you know.
Okay. All right. So this evening, then, we'll say, what is Montessori about? Helping to prepare for children for real life. So if that's true, then how do we model that preparation for life, both practically and emotionally under the current circumstances? So that will include for especially what practical steps and organizational tools we have in place. What are some examples of successful responses? So we'll be talking about those. These are the things we'll look at. Are we modeling executive functioning skills, and model it in front of them? And it's all right to, in front of children, it's all right to talk out loud and to say that we are going to assess the problem. What do I need? What are we going to accomplish? We're going to plan the solution. How are we going to solve this? Execute and carry out the plan, evaluate the results, and start all over again. So we are going to do these things in our own classroom. We'll be talking about that. Are we modeling emotional regulation and self-care? What are our Montessori non-negotiables that can be used as our guide? And then we'll come back to our own beliefs about what is this all about, and self-care again, the difference between emotions and feelings, creating routines that will help sustain us. What do we do when we fall off the horse? And practicing self-compassion for when that happens. So Montessori says to consider the school as a place where instruction is given is one point of view, but to consider the school as a preparation for life is another. In the latter case, the school must satisfy all the needs of life. And we usually know that, and so we're going to look at, well, did she give us any framework for the needs of life? And some people might recognize this. Why, yes, of course she did, as the fundamental needs from elementary. So we can use this as a guide. It's like she thought of everything. But fundamental needs of people, what are the material needs? We might say that defense and shelter, that those are both material needs for safety. Transportation and food, those kind of things. So, so we can look at that in communication. So here's a quick refresher of our Montessori non-negotiables. And Elaine has written a little handout that we have for you. Elaine, do you want to tell us anything about this from when Montessori went viral? Oh, you're on mute, honey.
I was hearing a lot at the beginning about hearing about the angst of parents, about how they can try to implement what the advice they were getting from the teachers, and they were feeling overwhelmed, and it just felt like we needed to kind of solidify what are the really most important points, what are the salient points of Montessori that we need to get across to parents, so that they can imagine what life will be like as they're trying to support their child, try to stay in Montessori, but recognizing that this is a home environment. So what are the most important things? So that's kind of the germ that started the idea to write that.
Great. So we know that the non-negotiables, these are probably things we all already know because we do these all the time, but I didn't want to just make assumptions and have them go without saying. So, you know, the non-negotiables, we're going to prepare an environment that has order and consistency. We have to make sure there's movement. So these things are going to be true whether there's COVID or not. We still want to make sure that we provide real and purposeful work, that there's freedom of choice. Obviously, we're going to use our own observation to make those choices about what's in the child's spaces, whether it's at home in a yes space that we help parents develop, or whether it's in our classroom, points of interest, things that are sensorial. Do you hear the water falling, the beans, whatever, if whatever you're using for your works. Process, not the product. And of course, of all things, love is most potent. So just a quick refresher about some of those basic things. So we'll go back to the those fundamental needs of man, the spiritual need of communication, and remember what is important. And this some of this came from a meeting I attended earlier today with Kathy there, but they talked about things, and I've seen that Tammy Chevrier has already done this too, make a video. So Elaine mentioned about how nervous and anxious parents are. And I know some of us are feeling that anxiety too. And that's why we're here together, is to share information and kind of help with that anxiety. So what kind of things can we do to help parents to feel more comfortable? And that the unknown can cause anxiety. So the solution would be to make it unknown. And so how might we go about doing that? So one way might be to make a video about what the school looks like if parents are worried about children wearing masks. Then we can make videos about putting on masks, or we can make videos about what the school looks like with masks, so that it's not something that parents are imagining some terrible day where their children can't breathe and things are just left without information. We imagine things, and so we want to provide information. So making a video can help. I have a little video here. I don't know if people will be able to hear, but I'll try this. This person has.
Somerville here.
Can you hear it?
A song about a mask. I have two masks. One has crayons on it. See? One has stars on it. You might have seen people wear masks at the store. Some are fancy and some are just plain white. Well, I have a song today about my mask. And I'm going to sing it for you.
Only a few seconds.
Put it on. It's just me. I have a mask. It's really cool. And it makes me super strong. It gives me a secret power. And I'll sing you my cool mask song. It's only me, don't be afraid. I'll just wear it for a little while. And when I get home with my family, I'll take it off and they'll see me smile. See, I put it on around my ears, see? It keeps my germs from getting out. If I cough or if I sneeze, it's fun to wear my super mask, and I want you to wear yours, please. I like wearing my mask. It's kind of fun, like wearing a costume.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a Montessori way to do it, but I thought it was pretty adorable, and so encourage you to, relax into it, find a way to make it fun and make your own, just an invitation to make a little video or something. I saw one, we have a Facebook group. I saw that people have made videos walking through the classroom, showing some of the changes that have been made as something that you can do. So those are some ideas. So I heard Patty say too, one way that we might be able to calm a parent who's worried about their child wearing a mask is to ask if the child gets worried when the parent puts on sunglasses. And so we attach a mask means a sick person or something about hospitals and things, but a child might not necessarily do that. So again, we just don't want to bring our own assumptions, our own understanding to the classroom. What I have heard from many people is that children are doing much better than we would have guessed or have been have expected. And Dr. Montessori says those things, that the child is going to absorb their environment regardless of the language we're speaking, the clothes we're wearing, whatever we are doing. If we say, this is what we're doing now, they will say, okay, this is what we're doing now. And so I just want to encourage everybody, again, embrace this, embrace the idea that if situations change, then we rise to meet the occasion. That's what we do. That's what we do here. Yes, Elaine?
Mary, a comment has come up in our chat about how we're a little uncomfortable wearing masks around young children who might need to see our facial expressions, watch our lips for language development. Would this be a good time to address that some, and maybe some ways that people are handling that with young children?
Yes, and on the next slide, we are going to talk about that. And on this slide, I'm going to talk about it. It's actually kind of the next thing. One thing right here is in this lower picture is she's in a school or a nurse, I'm not sure, but they've made little buttons where the person's face, you would take a picture of yourself without a mask so that you could wear that on yourself. So you could make a little button if you wanted, like the Montessori button. You could make that kind of a button, or I think you could just laminate a picture of yourself and safety pin it to your shirt. So you might have a mask here and you might have your picture there. So that's, that's one idea. Another thing we've brought up in another conversation. I'm sorry, I think we've got some feedback. Is that children who might have other kind of like vision problems and things, they do still learn to speak. It's not that we just want to be careful about saying they won't be able to learn if they can't see our mouth. Definitely they are interested in our mouths, and we say that all the time, and we're careful. We should still be careful to speak and then do the actions, so they're not having to listen to instructions and try to see what we're saying and do and what our hands are doing. But they will learn regardless, because they always do. And then there's also the idea of face shields, about clear face coverings, the pins that we've talked about. That you're not going to be wearing the masks all day. And that's another thing that might be, if you go outside during the day, that's something that, they'll be seeing your mouth then for social distancing, those kind of things. So they might still see your mask. And then I'm going to let Kathy talk when we get to the next slide about face coverings and about the face shields. I didn't hear the doctor talk about it, but she did. So I'll let her tell about it. The other thing about communication that I wanted to bring up was to have a plan in place for like a telephone tree, to make sure that parents and who are our stakeholders, teachers to child, teaching team members to teaching team members to parents, and teaching team members to other people at school, staff members and everything, so that, work with your head of school to make sure that if something happens, who calls who lets each other know. So again, in these executive functions, are we modeling logic and organization and things? Have your organization plans in place, and then you'll feel more calm and more confident. And then some parents have been worried about, how their children will listen if they, they're being asked to wear a mask. Oh, I can't get them to wear the mask at home. That if they're in a room full of children and everyone's wearing the mask, then we have that peer pressure kind of thing, or the wanting to do what your friends are doing. So sometimes parents will go, oh, that's right, you have this advantage I don't have at home, when it might just be me and the child and the parent. So bringing that up, that we can help the parent because they're going to want to do what their friends are doing. So So let's see, yes, that Kathy told me just this cool thing that I had not thought about this morning. I hadn't thought about before, about the child's lungs, and social distancing is different for children. And Kathy, can you help us with that?
Sure. Well, I'm meeting with an infectious control doctor periodically, and we're getting, obviously information from CDC, and one of our other sources is the Harvard public health group that has some really great guidance for us. And one of the things that came up about this is children's lung capacities. They don't expel their droplets quite as far as we do as adults, and so there was some thought, and we don't have all the research in yet, but we do know that their lung capacity, if you picture a very young child trying to blow out their birthday candle, for instance, they have to almost get right on top of it, and they almost spit it out because they can't get it out so much. So it's not to say that it's not contagious, but it is very different than with the adults who have a much longer, much further reach with breathing, talking, singing, all of those, sneezing, coughing, of course, all of those kinds of things. Just something to keep in mind.
Right, and so in that familiarizing yourself with how COVID spreads, that it has to be so many parts per million and all sorts of things, things like that. So it's not that somebody sneezes on you, but that person has to have COVID for sneezing. So it's not just everybody coughing or sneezing, and it matters about how far. So knowing that the children, you were saying too about facial, that if they had a face shield on, that's easier to clean. So the children would be wearing face shields. Maybe we would be wearing face shields. How would that work for 2 or 3-year-olds?
Yeah. So again, one of the physicians that we met with, he's an infectious control specialist, and there's not enough research right now on face shields for anybody to recommend them. So we can't say that, but he did feel as though children would be more compliant with them, and that it would still continue to minimize the risk and how far this would go, and how much would be out in the aerosol form. So he did tell us that in the absence of other guidelines, he would opt for a face shield. So again, we are not making recommendations. We're simply sharing information, so you can use it as part of your decision making and how you look at what your local communities are requiring. Many communities aren't requiring anything. And so we have to really do the homework and talk to the people, the physicians in our communities, as well as the CDC and the Harvard or whatever reliable source you're using for that kind of recommendations. And these recommendations, I have to tell you, change regularly. So if you've been following them, you will see that, I'll go back to CDC every single day, and I can see changes in what they're recommending. Subtle changes, sometimes large changes. And okay, somebody's saying in Maryland, 2 and over have to wear a mask. Washington, D.C. is 2 and over have to wear a mask. It's mandated. It's not optional. And so, some places have options and choices, and so you have to look at what's appropriate. But if it's mandated in your area, then we want to look at helping to coach you through what's the best way to do it. And, so we don't want to pretend to be medical experts or any of that, but I think that having an idea of what the information is that's out there, so you and your schools can make good decisions, is our goal.
Exactly. So, and you had said earlier too, and when we were talking, that the shield, that their breath would hit the shield and
come down just by virtue of gravity.
Right.
So while it might be on the child, of course, if they're infected, they're already infected. I mean, we know that children are asymptomatic. Many children are asymptomatic or have very, very mild symptoms that you really wouldn't know that they're ill. And so those are things we have to be careful of. Right. I prefer, personally, if I had a choice, I would rather see a child in a face mask. I can't tell you for sure that it is as safe. I mean, the medical communities wear a mask and a face shield and even sometimes goggles as well.
Right.
So, but they're exposed, they know they're exposed, and they know they're exposed all day long. So 7 to 8 hours of continuous known exposure is a different risk factor than we're entering into on any capacity in a school or early childhood center.
Absolutely. And so while we're on that topic a little bit, that if you're seeing the same children day after day and you're keeping them together, then it becomes a little bit like an extended family, except we don't know where they go when they leave us. But I know that my daughter has a child that she's going to be sending, and those parents are forming Zoom groups, and you're not going anywhere, are you? So they're peer pressuring each other, saying, hey, don't put my child at risk. I won't if you won't. So, I don't know how that will all work out, but my own daughter is very persuasive. So I'm guessing there would be plenty of parent groups where if you have young children and they say, hey, we're gonna, when we go out, we're going to make sure that we follow all the protocols, and that these families and people in your classroom can support each other and help keep you safe then too. And of course, you'll want to do your best that if you go somewhere to wear your face covering and have, I carry Purell with me, and every time I touch a surface, I use that to clean my hands. So whatever else you can do to keep yourself safe when you're away from school will help everybody when we're in school.
And Terry, can I follow up? Tracy just put a very important message in the chat box, and I think it's important for everyone to say that the most recent research that she just read says that those with face shields compared to masks, the ones with face shields became ill and the masks were protected. Tracy, would you mind just clarifying that for everybody? Because
yeah, I'll look for the
that's
link.
Important. Mm-hmm.
I'll look for the link, and I'm not sure if it was a study or just something that happened in a space, because I'm trying to remember it with my older brain. But what they were saying is that people wearing shields did end up getting ill from the virus, and those in the mask in the same setting did not. So then I went back and looked up the research on face shields that has been being quoted, where they talk about what you were saying, Kathy, that after an initial sneeze, in those first minutes, it blocks 96% of it. So that's really good news. But in that same original study, the authors of this study have even added a little note, because everyone's been talking about their study. Yeah. It shows 30 minutes later that the mask inside the shield during that study had just as much of the, it was not the coronavirus, it was a practice virus, virus on it as someone who was not wearing a shield. So the aerosol can still get inside the shield is what they're discovering.
Okay, really important. And that's why it's important to do the research, look at your local communities and regulations and what they're asking for. And I imagine that this research is going to continue to be updated, and we'll learn more. And I think we just have to all be really vigilant about that.
Right.
Thanks for that, Tracy.
Thank you. Thanks. So yes, different ideas. Look for what's out there, and look for when it might be a good time to wear one thing or another. So for childcare programs, of course, the cleaning here was just before. It's very short. If a cloth toy is used by another child, anytime somebody sneezes, anytime anybody puts anything in their mouth. So,
and just to clarify, because that's CDC, there are some local communities and licensing regulators that are not allowing anything that cannot be disinfected. So that, in other words, you wouldn't be able to have any cloth
any cloth things.
But I'm hearing that, right, that just depends on your local community and regulations.
Exactly. So, okay, next slide. Oops, went too far. Okay, so we have a guest, Tammy Chabria, who has helped us. Tammy, are you there?
I'm here.
Great. Can you talk to us a little bit? You said that you've been open since June, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, we closed mid-March like most people. And then we reopened when our state first allowed it, which was our first day was June 1st. We welcomed back 3 out of our 11 students at that time. And right now we're holding steady at 3. We're supposed to jump up in August to 6. But our state, like many states, is seeing numbers rise. And so some parents are a little nervous about coming back in August. So we'll see where it is. So since we've been open now over a month and a half, I just thought I could contribute a little bit about some changes we made and how they've been going. You know, I was watching the chat and seeing a lot of the masks here. So I'm in Ohio. And so I have 2 of my students have recently turned 2. 1 will turn 3 in October, so that's the age range I have currently. And I did a few of our Zoom chats that we were doing before we came back. I started it with no mask, and then I put my mask on so they get used to seeing me with mask. And then I made a classroom tour video where I wore a mask the whole time. My families told me that they all watched it with their children. And so then when the first day of school came around, I mean, I was expecting acclimation time for the we did individual tables. We changed several of the things in the classroom, and there was literally no acclimation. They just came back and got right into it like it was nothing. There was no acclimation with the masks. I found that they were not having difficulty reading my emotions or knowing when I was smiling or joking. They weren't having any of those problems. And all of my students, even my almost 3-year-old, they're not very verbal, just the group I have right now. And so even with that, there was no problems with the mask at all. So I just wanted to kind of ease everybody's mind if you're worrying about that. Like, we have not found it to be difficult at all. In fact, just today, during lunch, I eat lunch with the children. We all eat at our individual tables, but I take off my mask while I'm eating my lunch with them. And one of my students came over and pointed to my mask, and he wanted me to put my mask back on because now he's just used to seeing me with my mask. It's like if I take my glasses off. Like, why are you taking your glasses off? And so, yeah, it's now it's completely a normal thing, and it's weird if I'm not wearing my mask. So, yes, I see students, yes, lunch and snack is like literally the most boring time in the classroom because we don't have any community now. So they're sitting at individual tables eating, and like, it's so boring. But yes. So some of the changes that we implemented, we actually had to change our whole drop-off and pick-up procedure because before we had like one main room in the school that all of our children dropped off to, both the toddler classroom and the preschool classroom, and then we dispersed from there. So we changed to drop-off and pick-up in our outside doors, and we welcome straight into the classroom. That was a really huge change. I actually, though, really like it better than the way we were doing it before. So that is one that I hope stays after COVID. And then we set up individual tables. So I have 6 individual tables set up for our students. And we are still allowing freedom of movement. We still have classroom areas set by content, and they can choose their work. They go take it to the table, and then after they're done using it, we kind of swoop it away and sanitize it, leave it to dry, and then when we put it back, then the next person could choose that. So all of the works are generally, out of commission for 5 or 10 minutes in between students using them. So there are some bare spots on our shelf now where there, wouldn't have been before. And then we are using, I went to individual toilets or potties. And so we have six toilets set up. So everybody has their own dedicated toilet that they use. So we didn't change our toileting at all. So I know I've seen, not on today's chat or anything, but I've seen people wonder if they should go back to maybe diapers and stop toilet training because they're worried about cross-contaminations, but we are not having a problem with just, we had enough space where we gave everybody their own toilet, and we're still doing, we always disinfected every time they went and things like that. So we're still doing that. It's just a little bit more, they are the only one that use that toilet. So I went a little farther than I should have, probably just for my own comfort level, but I took out all the Montessori materials. I didn't feel comfortable with wood because it's porous. So I am, Donna, I have 3 right now. I had 11 before COVID, but I have 3 right now. I'm doing a lot of DIY home stuff right now. Instead of our pretty little wooden coin box, I have poker chips and a wipey box that I'm using. I mean, it's not as beautiful, but the children seem to be having just as much fun doing the work, and I feel much more safe about the disinfecting properties of it. I did take out all of the cloth toys, and so we only use plastic or metal in the classroom. All wicker baskets are gone. All wooden trays are gone. Now it's only plastic trays. So that's what I've been doing. For things that can't be easily sanitized, like our dough that we use for Play-Doh, I make individual batches of it and put it in a container, and each child's container has their picture on it, and they only use that one. Similarly, for the sensory table, I have each student their own. In June, we used bird seeds to fill up the bird feeder, so they each had their own tub of bird seed, and that's the only bird seed they touched. Right now, we have sand, so they only use their sand. They don't touch anybody else's sand. Crayons are another thing that they each have their own of, and then the other materials in that work can be sanitized because they're plastic, like the cutting board that we use for dough and the roller, but the dough itself is individualized.
I want to say that I saw on your Facebook, on what you posted on Facebook, it looked like you had little drawers or cubbies so that things that were individualized, the children knew where to go get their cutting board or their little things. So it's still, all of the Montessori non-negotiables are there. They still have freedom of choice. They know where to get things. They can move and go get it themselves. It's just been rearranged and plastic. But as Elaine keeps reminding us, this will be over someday, and we will not forget. We will remember that we want our beautiful things, but for now, we're making this compromise, and we're looking at what things we'll keep, like coming in a certain door, and which things that once COVID's gone, that will bring back our beauty and our aesthetics, and so thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing those things. I might ask you some more questions in the future, another two, another thing. I wanted to ask Mercedes too. I think Mercedes has been open for a while, and I just want to ask, Mercedes, are you there? And have you had positive with children having masks and things too, and reacclimating to the space?
Yeah, it's been, honestly, going to school is the most normal thing in my life right now. It has been like I actually am getting kind of unexpectedly choked up thinking about how even though I wear a mask from classroom to classroom, I'm a floater, so I mask up, and I actually have one of my masks here, and it, adaptation, right? The children just it's without judgment. They adapt without judgment. They see us and they see how things are, and they just say thank you for that information. Not one child ever asked, why are you wearing a mask? They really don't play with the masks. They don't really touch them. Like they'll grab at glasses, I think, before they grab at masks. It's almost as if they understand the importance of wearing them. Isn't that funny? So anyway.
It's amazing. Children have these amazing powers where they can read our emotions. They can get, it's important. If it's important to us, it's important to them. So it is a magic power. That absorbent mind is pretty incredible. So
it's just has exceeded. We even started new children. I did Zoom observations with parents who had never, they've never been inside the classroom. They've looked from the doorway. And they've come onto our yard. And if you told me, probably more than 6 months ago now, that would be our protocol, I would have. I mean, that is what. So we're adapting. The children are adapting, and it feels just very similar to the way that it felt before COVID.
You're doing Zoom home visits? Is that what you said?
We've been doing social distance home visits. So the teachers go to the child's house and they sit outside and they wear a mask. And if the child wants to approach them or touch them, that's fine. And then they come and do an afternoon visit. So everyone's gone for the day, and the parents come into the yard and everyone is wearing a mask, and the teacher invites the child into the classroom to look around, and the parents can kind of look from the door. And that's the only time that they get to come in. I mean, all of our drop-offs happen at the perimeter, at the gate. Both the parent and the teacher, or whoever is doing the health check, wears a mask. We have a list of symptoms that we added. Some of the symptoms that we have read are more common in children, like, rash in between toes and fingers. And so we've added kind of a more robust symptom check than the one that's required by our state, which is Oregon. And it's honestly, like, drop off and pick up happens so much faster now, and people are in and out. It's been incredible. So this is kind of like our phase 1 opening. We were closed from March 13th to June 1, and we're operating under emergency license, which is how you have to operate in the state of Oregon. And we gave parents a summer opt-out, which I've never done before, but we needed a little runway to adapt. So we have, out of 83 kids pre-COVID, about 31 in our school right now, and we're staffing. I think I have a little more than half my staff back. So we're going to have phase 2 September 1st, because that's when the parents who took the summer off will come back, hopefully. The numbers are not awesome in our state, so we'll see what the parents who put a deposit down for September will do, but there's a need. I mean, people are being phased back in to work, and we are essential. I know that nobody signed up necessarily for this, but that's what we are, is essential. And you guys are my heroes. My teachers are my heroes. And the parents who are at home working full time and taking care of their kids are also my heroes. I mean, there's a lot of heroism happening right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we now have 2 testimonials of children coming back and smoothing right back in. Micah, are you there? How are things going at your school? Are you there?
We're actually, oh, I'm here.
Uh-huh.
I'm there. We actually have not opened yet. We're just planning for our opening in September. So I don't know yet. I'm glad to hear that everybody is opening.
Great.
Terry,
Yes, Stephanie?
we opened in June 15th after being closed in March. We currently have an average of about 8 or 9 toddlers a day. Compared to our normal 12. We have been very successful with reopening. Of course, temperature checks, having the parents get the children out of the car during our car line. They fill out weekly, COVID surveys, health and safety protocol surveys. We take their temperature checks. We actually clean the bottom of their shoes before they come into the classroom. We have left all the Montessori materials out. We have limited some, and we did limit, if, we were having 8 kids, we left 4 work mats and 4 tables with individual chairs at each table, which really limited to they could choose a work mat or choose a table, which helped with a little bit more of social distancing. We do have a great outdoor area, so we do utilize that as well a lot. Lunches, we still eat lunch, but the tables are just spread out a little bit more. Of course, all the Montessori materials are there. We try to disinfect them as someone uses them. Play-Doh is individual containers that they can get with their name on it. So to us, I feel like it's been very normalized with just some minor modifications. We're in Florida. We win the award for amount of COVID cases. It's extremely high. We started where teachers did not have to wear masks, and now they do. So we've adjusted to that. We are quickly working on adjusting our masks to having clear face shields. We do feel like it is important if toddlers can see your mouth for language development. But so far, so good, and it's worked.
Yay. Thank you for sharing that. And the children, they're happy, they're doing okay?
We have had the best group and the most supportive parents. Everybody is super supportive. They understand that we're in a trying time. We had a little girl sneeze a couple times. We said, Mom, would you mind? She keeps sneezing. Take her home. Keep an eye on her. Make sure we have, of course, very strong, return to school with doctor's notes or negative, COVID test if there's any, of the major COVID symptoms. And parents are okay. They want their kids to be in a stable environment as much as possible, and they're willing to do what it takes to get their children back into a routine.
Great, that's great news. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. So I'll click through a little bit farther and let's see. So we've already talked about some of these things, checking in when we arrive, how to make this a gentle part of the day, and people have spoken to that. And we just, again, just want to, I said gentle because we just want to, hi, you're here today, and this is how we're doing it. And so we just want to be careful about that. And then I know that some people then are making sure that they are, even if they're not wearing masks in the classroom, that they absolutely wear masks if they have to go from place to place. And again, this depends on your own state and your own regulations and everything. Some people are not mingling with, some schools are not mingling with anybody ever. They only use their own door that would have taken them outside, and that's very smart. And if there's, if there's ever a time if their school doesn't have that amenity and there's a time when they're in the hallway, then they would definitely wear masks and things at that time. So, just another way of thinking things through. I know some people are also still in Zoom calls, and I don't know how how that's working for everybody. Some people are hybrid, where they still have some faculty at home doing that. So, I picked this up off of our Facebook page, where one of the teachers, they went places where they could go and be safe, and did live Zooms from places where they could go. So that seemed like a new idea. It seems like trying whatever you're going to do, if you're going to offer that service, that we should try to make it as rich and as possible, and engaging as possible. And we can post some more things about how to do that. And again, one of the most important things is that it's back and forth, that you actually see those children, you're responding to them in real time, is better than having everything recorded. Recordings are fine for some things, like instructions that people would need to access during the day. But if you're going to do Zooms, for sometimes that it could be something. If your school is doing that, just try to make it engaging, I guess, is something that we could say. And that if you're finding success, please share it. Share it in places that are forums, and places where other people might benefit. Other things are micro schools. Then some people are forming little pods. If they're not doing it in a school, they're doing it in people's homes. And I'm saying that for people who might be furloughed and their schools might not be opening again, then you might have to be looking for things like, what will you do? So some people are getting little family groups together so that children can still socialize, and then those groups would be almost extended families, where you might offer Montessori in a home, someplace like that. So just wanted to mention that as some of the things that we're doing. Some people are doing. Some people are consulting with parents to help them do Montessori in the home. And I hope that everybody is providing their parents with as much information as possible on how to support them through this time with Montessori in the home. Some places that didn't have people sign back up again, or who are just offering different services, have a Montessori library where they're letting people come and check things out for 2 weeks or something if the school isn't working, or if you have empty classrooms, that you might be able to do that. Some people are inviting families to come in and have a play group there, and say, great, on Friday morning from 10 to 11 or 10 to noon, these people are going to come in, maybe if someone can't afford regular tuition. So again, I just want to encourage people to think outside of the box and find your niche, and find what you can do, and that there's lots of ways to respond to this. And I wrote Studio June on that. Elaine is always talking about Studio June, and she's just got some great resources on her website, and can show you how to do some of these things that we just talked about. So the other things are things like spiritual needs. So we talked about material needs and spiritual needs. For the spiritual needs, it was communication fell under that too. For needs of belonging, needs of staying connected. Someone sent this to me, Sarah Robinson, a former a graduate from CGMS, said that they are preparing food for animals in their barns since they can't prepare food for themselves, that they have started planting a garden for animals, that they're cleaning and sanitizing, but the children are helping with the cleanup. So I've heard things like having a table where the children will all go and drop off their, whatever they worked with, instead of returning it to a shelf, that they return it to a table so that no one else can pick it up, and that's where somebody, an adult, would help to sanitize it and then put it back out later. So that she said also she wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they've adapted well to their new environment and that they're getting face shields there for the adults, that they're getting face shields. So I'm not sure about what the science is on it. I just know that it's an option. And so you might do face shields and the masks for times, but masks down for other times. So anyway, so they're also helping children to express their feelings, and that's an important part of our job too. Although it sounds like the children are doing great, and it's our feelings that we need to be dealing with. So on that note, this is one of my favorite sayings, that you can't give away what you do not possess. And that I cannot teach any of y'all how to play a tuba because I have no idea. I don't know how to play a tuba. I also cannot give you $1 million because I do not have $1 million. So, so part of that is that if we want the children to be self-regulated and we want them to, express their emotions in a positive way, it sounds like, again, that they might be ahead of us, or it might be that you all have just been doing such an amazing job that they already got that from you, that's, and they feel so comfortable. And that's also just a great, kudos to all the heroes that helped children to feel comfortable, and that this is just the thing that we're doing now. So on that note, I wanted to say too that that we can talk a little bit that there's a difference as far as regulating our own emotions and coming up with things, that there's a difference between emotions and feelings. If that was something that you did or didn't know, it's a little bit tricky because they say anyway that emotions are something that's more physiological. Like I might get surprised, or if something's coming towards my eye, I blink. I don't choose to blink. It's a physiological kind of response. Or if something is, if I think something is, not if I think, if something seems gross to me, that I might, have the gagging thing, or surprised, fear, if something's after you, you might be startled or afraid. So that those are emotions. But feelings then are what you think about those emotions. And so the one is part in a different part of your brain than the other. So, but the thinking about emotions might be like, it's the story you tell yourself about an emotion. Was that good or bad that you had this emotion? That's not a good thing to think, or that's a complicating factor. If you think that your emotion was bad, then that may not be something that's helpful for you. But something, a more positive example would be like pumpkin pie. So you might have a feeling about pumpkin pie if you're someone who, in your tradition, pumpkin pie is a positive thing for you. If you don't have pumpkin pie as part of your tradition, then it might not mean anything to you. So you might not have a feeling about it one way or other, except for the smell or the taste of the pie. So that added a layer of information about, it's like my grandma's house, and that's when I also have, other feelings about the holiday and things. So just wanted to put that part in there, because in some cultures they value, America often values emotions such as happiness or elation, where other cultures value being calm. And so it's a lot about the story that you tell yourself. And so if you're having some kind of feelings that are not helpful, then sometimes you can look at that and talk about what story you want to tell yourself. So there's a little bit here about, if you find you're in all or nothing feelings, if you find you're overgeneralizing or over catastrophizing or something, that there are things that you can do. And some of those things are, of course, just breathe. This came from Exchange Every Day, and part of it was from the Dalai Lama too, saying things about breathing. um, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth, count to 5. They call it a square breathing if you do it regularly, 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out. Singing can change your state and how you're feeling. Limit your news consumption, regular bedtimes. This is grooming that even if you're not going anywhere, to, do something special, put on some, something that makes you happy. Healthy eating and gratitude. And then another thing that I read recently was from a man named Stephen Kotler, and he says things like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and that if we have problems and we have a habitual way of responding, then we might not be thinking out of the box. So he said, what if, for examples, instead of nervously waiting for a job interview and all the things that could go wrong, instead you stand up, do a power pose, and try to help yourself feel more confident, instead of some leadership trendy kind of things. Look for more productive strategies. And he says, but most of us don't do these things, that we wait until after we feel better to go for the walk in the sun instead of going for that walk to make ourselves feel better, that we wait until after we get the job offer to celebrate. Go ahead and celebrate now. You're okay, right now. So to do things that way. So I just want to give everybody permission to not wait for things to get better before you're kind to yourself. Before you take good care of yourself, go ahead and give yourself permission to go stand out in the sun and enjoy the day. Those other ideas about breathing and singing, even if things are not great, we don't have to wait for things to be great before we eat well, before we make sure we go to bed on time, and those sorts of things. So here's a quote that says, most humans are never fully present in the now because unconsciously they believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. And so there isn't anything more important than right now. Right now is what's happening. So I don't want to say enjoy any of this, because I know that, some people are really suffering, but this is our moment. This is our time in history. And when we're with the children, especially, this is when they're forming. This is when they're going to be resilient, learn to be resilient, going to know that they're enough, that they can meet the moment, they rise to occasions, and what they believe about themselves, regardless of what's happening in the world around you. And so to take back that locus of control and remind yourself that it's okay right now to be grateful, to breathe, to do what you need to take care of yourself, and to create little habits that will support that. So, for myself, I have all sorts of little life hacks that, for right here, here's my mission statement, all the things in the course, it's right here. Here's my mission statement. Here's my action statement, my gratitude, that I keep those close by. On mornings when I'm tired, I recorded me saying all my morning prayers. Sometimes I just plug it in and I listen to myself praying because I might be too tired. So I listen to myself. So anyway, there's just ways to try to fold in the things that we need into our life. And if you fall out of practice, please don't beat yourself up again about anything. You'll be back into things again before you know it. So I have for myself phase 1 reopenings all the time, where I've gotten really busy doing something, and so I'm going to start doing Tai Chi because that's pretty easier than big exercises. And then once I've gotten good at moving again, then I might walk all the way down to the fire station and back, and then I can walk 3 miles before long and back. So, if you fall off the wagon, if you have some routines in place, then you go, oh yeah, I remember I'm going I'm going to do those things. I set alarms on my phone every 2 hours so I can get up and hop around. I hop down my hall to my kitchen because it's just hilarious, and that way I'm hopping some, and that just cracks me up. And I'm it also cracks up other people here. So anyway, just invite you to find ways to you know, fold those things into your life. So this is my closing. This is my closing slide. So I figure we can take questions and have more conversation from here. Elaine, did you have more questions?
No, go ahead and do that, and then I'll share with you some of the comments.
Okay. It says it's not enough for the teacher to love the child, although it's pretty good. She must first love and understand the universe. She must prepare herself and truly work at it. And so that's my hope for us, is that we will do the work and truly work at it. And I think everybody already is, but you know, just want to stand with you in that. So anyway, yes, what else did you have to say, Miss Elaine?
Well, we have had a very lively discussion on the chat. One of the first things that I'd like to say is when we are about to leave our meeting tonight, if you go down to the 3 little dots, you can click Save Chat and it will download to your computer. So that's a handy little tip. If you're in the chat area and you go down to the bottom where you would actually like post a chat, all the way over to the top right, there are 3 little dots, and when you click on that, you can hit Save Chat. So you can have the whole dialogue of what we've been talking about from the time that you entered with us to the end. So I just wanted to share that. Some of the questions that have come up, of course, there's been a lively talk about masks, and I think we covered that really well, and it's certainly an ongoing discussion. There's been a lot of talk about sensorial experiences and how we handle those in a way, you know, with disinfecting. Even sandboxes outside never occurred to me. It's like, well, yeah, I guess what do you do? How many children can you allow in a sandbox? I don't know if anyone's had any experience, would like to share what they're allowed at their school about that. I usually like to have my sandbox in the shade, and perhaps right now I wouldn't. I would want to have as much sunshine on that sandbox as I could right now. But is there anyone out there who would like to share anything about sensorial experiences they are allowed to provide their children, and how they're handling sandboxes?
Yeah, someone said that they prefer no sandboxes. When my children were growing up, I had a big digging spot. Did you have something, Mercedes?
We can't have them. We cannot use the sandboxes right now. So we're not using them, and it's a loss. It's a loss. But we get new rules. So our draft rules will come tomorrow, and hopefully we won't have to pivot to individual sandboxes, because I think that's kind of the direction that will will go.
I have seen like square foot gardening before, and I have assigned each child their own little garden spot, and used like popsicle sticks to put whose name was there for just digging in your own along a sidewalk. Maybe people could have their own, you know, space for digging. I'm not exactly sure what all the logistics would be, but digging is just so important. What do you? So finding a way to dig.
Running water is okay, but no standing group water. Individual water work is okay, but we pulled our dishwashing. I mean, it's been a challenge. Like some of the things that I have felt in the past are what really define our Montessori-ness, are things that are put away, and it's really, we've had to dig very deep to we drill down, you know, to the non-negotiables. And it's just for right now. It's just for right now.
Right. So
that's something that I keep reiterating with people that I'm counseling is, yes, we're making compromises. Yes, these are required right now, but we have to keep in our minds that one day these compromises aren't necessary, and we're going to have to advocate to get the things that we know are right back. get our dishes back and get it back to the way it used to be. So if we can just remember that is we're making changes right now to respond to an emergency, and when the emergency isn't there, we have to advocate back. So I think we'll have to support each other in that. We'll have to keep reminding ourselves, what is Montessori? What was it like pre-COVID, right? And once in a while, we're going to find something that's a silver lining that we want to hold on to. Like Tammy says, I'm gonna remember that. I'm glad we're doing that now. So you might trip on a couple of really great ideas that you'll want to share, and we'll want to keep from all of this too.
I see some outdoor activities, and outdoors great, and that is a silver lining. We've been trying to push people to go outside, say, oh, please, you know, let the children play outside. And it seems like now, you know, that's something that is very advantageous. So I know it depends on weather, but luckily the sun is helpful when it comes to viruses and cleaning things, and that the air ventilation is a good thing. So being outside and finding ways to make that work is a positive. I'm going to stop screen sharing so we can see each other. There you go. Let's take a look at everybody, and there's your smiling faces again. So
another issue that came up was nap. If anybody has had any issues around having to change their nap procedures and how they set up nap mats, are there new guidelines about that? Have you come into any issues there, and have you found good solutions around some of those guidelines?
Well, Florida is recommending head to toe layouts, of course, as far apart as possible. The toddlers do use cots. We disinfect those daily, and for the rest mats as well, they are wiped down for the children in the early childhood room daily. So minor adjustments there.
And head to toe makes so much sense. And all those years I did, I never thought of head to toe, but I would have done that.
I know, right?
that would have solved a lot of issues back in the day. That's great. Someone's asking what's head to toe. So if one child's head is, you know, near the wall, the next child next to them would have their toes near the wall.
Correct.
It's brilliant.
Right. It's basically, so if they're coughing or something, breathing hard, their face is as far as away as possible from the other child's face. Florida, you're further the better.
That is true.
Someone very early on had actually asked about administration support. And so, Kathy, I just want to make you aware of that, and make anyone who is looking for more information about school support and administration support during this time, that the Montessori Foundation and IMC is offering a lot of great support. Would you like to speak to that really quickly, Kathy?
Well, sure. I will put my email in the chat, kathyleach@montessori.org. And if you're looking for some help for your school, I'm happy to talk you through what some of the choices are. And then another quick way to just look at some upcoming events is montessori.org. At the Urgent News and Announcements page, there will be a link to the videos that we have done that are now in the recording library. And then also the upcoming, the rest of the upcoming series of these types of webinars, as well as many others that we have to offer. So we do a lot of coaching and consulting with schools, and we have groups of school leaders working together to help problem solve. So if you are an administrator or would like more information on that, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I'll put it in the chat box for you.
Thank you, Kathy. And then one other issue that we haven't really discussed tonight is, what do you do? Some states are asking visitors from other states to quarantine. And so what do you do when you have children from divorce situations where a child every other weekend is visiting in another state and then coming back into the school? Are they having to quarantine? Are you having some of these unusual issues? But I can imagine these things are going to be cropping up. We're trying to control contacts as much as possible. What are the regulations? What are some school policies around families where children are living in two different homes, separate homes, and what complications that might bring in terms of their contacts? Any help with that from our community? Anyone had any experience with that?
Portland is pretty close to Washington, and so I could imagine that is a potential situation that could arise. We do have a collective agreement. It's just an agreement. Parents are agreeing to isolate before they start, isolate themselves and their children, and that they're agreeing to follow mask guidelines and do their best to isolate their children, that when they're not taking their kids to the store. But there's always going to be, I mean, you know, children have siblings and their siblings go to summer camp. So we can't control every risk factor. And I would want to know if not allowing a family to have that custody arrangement would be like a form of discrimination. I know that in our state we cannot discriminate against parents who are essential workers. We actually have to prioritize their enrollment. So we don't have to kick our parents out that are previously enrolled, but new enrollment, we're supposed to prioritize essential workers, which actually, from my perspective, is not necessarily a bad thing. Closing the school was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, financially, emotionally, logistically. I don't know that my school will survive another shutdown. It's just, there's not going to be another round of PPP funding, probably. Like, we got a lot of help, and I have zero expectation that will exist in the future. And so it's important for us to be able to be resilient. And so we're planning for the most restrictive rules and prioritizing essential workers. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But I think the problem that you, the problem of shared custody and isolation is a real, that's gonna be tough to resolve.
You'll have to follow whatever the states tell you. If they have to quarantine, then they will have to quarantine. So
and that makes it easy, doesn't it, when in some ways when other people decide for us.
Well, it is nice when everybody's following the same rules, and there's some kind of standards, instead of having to look everywhere for what the different state rules will be. So but thanks. Then you have parents who refuse to wear a mask. Sure, but those, again, it's just coming down to trying to help them. We have someone in my family who is got a heart condition, and she's 24 and has multi-handicaps, and we're just like, please, it's not for you that you're wearing the mask. It's to protect us, so we don't take it back home to grandma or to a handicap, to someone who has some challenges, health challenges in their life. So if we can just convince people that it's part of their being a responsible part of the community, and that we will protect the vulnerable in our community. We will protect people. Whoops, we've got some extra audio there. We're coming near the end of our 90 minutes that we had blocked off for each other. I hope that some of the things that we talked about were helpful. I hope that it's helpful knowing that the people who have gone back, that it's been a positive experience, that the children were okay, that if you help parents, if you're honest and transparent with them, that that's one of the best ways to get buy-in with them. I didn't say, but I always like to say, help your heads of school, you know, that they, if, you know, people who are administrators don't have magic crystal balls. If you have good ideas, share them, you know, it will be appreciated, you know, those kind of things. So, did anybody else have anything? I see Elena's here. We've had some other people that have joined us that are our IGs that have people here that they want to say hi. I didn't want to miss anybody. I hope I didn't. But anyway, it's been great to see everyone. Did Beth ever get here?
She did come in. Yeah, I did let her in again. So
okay, great. So
I hope she was there amongst the 200.
So we had a wonderful large group. It was so good to see all the faces that we could see. I hope you scrolled through. There's little arrows on either side. We can kind of like scroll through and wave to each other. Remember to click the 3 dots because we are going to be closing up soon. So if you want a copy of the chat questions and answers, then you can have that, and we'll, you know, I'm going to scroll through and I'm just going to look at all your lovely, wonderful faces and say thank you so much for coming. I'm wishing you the very best. I'm wishing you safety and love and all things good. So,
and thank you to the CGMS team. Very, very nice. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spending your time to help other Montessorians. We appreciate it.
It's an honor. It's an honor and a pleasure.
It is. We want everybody to do well. Thank you for taking care of children and their families. Thank you so very much. You're definitely my heroes. So thank you. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.